Good evening and welcome to Creation as Liberation, presented by the Outwards Archive, or Outwards, as we're known to our friends and family, and generously sponsored by the City of Los Angeles' Department of Cultural Affairs. My name is Mason Funk. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm the founder and executive director at Outwards. I'll tell you a bit more about tonight's program in a minute, but let me begin by affirming first that Outwards stands in solidarity with all Indigenous people. We acknowledge that our headquarters are located on the ancestral, unceded lands of the Tongva people, who are the past, present, and rightful future stewards of this place. I make this acknowledgement as part of an ongoing commitment on the part of this organization to develop relationships and practices to support Native sovereignty. Los Angeles is not only an extraordinary creative capital of the world, but also specifically for queer artists. And as you're going to experience tonight, it's also been a place of liberation for queer artists born and raised in distant lands who have come here, each for individual reasons, in search of their fullest creative potential. Los Angeles has also been a place where an LA-born and raised artist could find liberation from a family environment that wanted to squash and erase his heritage, reclaiming his true self through his art. You all are in for a real treat tonight, spending time with the extraordinary artists whom we've brought together for this event. Please watch this introductory video.
There was a sense of certain kinds of constraints. I was a Black girl, and what I could and could not do was coded into everything: what to wear, what you do with your hair, how you talk to boys. People didn't talk in my home about queer at that time, at least not in direct ways. So there were these constraints that came with being who I was.
When I was like 3, my parents moved to Vashon Island, and it's in the middle of Puget Sound, and I grew up in a really old farmhouse that we bought. It was peaceful and gave me a lot of time to explore the woods and learn to appreciate nature a lot. I didn't meet anybody that I knew was LGBTQ until probably in my 20s. If anybody was that I had been around, I had no idea. It was a very homophobic environment that I was raised in, and transphobic wasn't even a word yet.
I went through high school trying to, I guess, pass. So I became a football player, and I dated cheerleaders, and I did everything I could to have them think that he's okay, and then I could do the artwork. And then I could be an artist, and somehow, I didn't have to qualify. So I was always as many people as I needed to be for the people I was around, into college, until really I met David.
Living in New York was like having 2 jobs. One was being an artist, and the other was having a gun to your head. It was like that. I had a lot of incidents in New York. It was a tough town, and it was grimy, and so by the time I came to California and I met Jolino, I decided to just stay here and not go back to New York.
I think I'm really still discovering my artist self, or selves, plural. When I went to Austin is when I met a series of people who pushed me in so many ways to be bold, to be courageous, which is not the absence of fear, to be fully myself. I didn't know what they were doing. Is that theater? What is that? And who are they? So I kept going back, and every time I thought, Omi, what are you doing? What do you don't know what you're doing? And that I think is precisely where many of us need to go, so that we can release into something bigger, more brazen and dynamic than the single self can even contain.
I just loved music. I was surrounded by people who were professional quality musicians, and I wanted to do that too. After I got married, my now ex, she wanted to become a square dance caller. So we put her through caller school, but the problem was that most of the square dance callers in the world are old guys. It was really hard to find songs that would fit her. And at that time, technology had gotten to the point where you could do your own home studio recording stuff. And so I started composing on that for her and realized that I actually had a really good forte for doing orchestral composition. Eventually that morphed into us starting our own record label. I became very well known worldwide to all the square dance callers. In fact, a lot of the older ones that you run into today, if I walk into a square dance hall, they'll recognize me. Because like, holy cow, you were amazing. You started a whole different thing happening in square dancing.
A lot of our friends in drama school and art school at CMU were asked to come to New York and start this venue that Bill Graham, who no one knew who he was at the time, was putting together, and they needed posters. And would I do posters? So I did my first poster, and everybody liked it. Jefferson Airplane, Jimi Hendrix, Blue Cheer, Iron Butterfly. Then I did a poster for David Bowie, and then I did Tommy at the Met. And it just never stopped. And the rest is history.
I was brought up with, an assimilationist to the nth degree father. We weren't allowed to speak Spanish. We really had no connection to any of our heritage. It wasn't until I discovered Mosaic where I really felt I was representing the Mexican side of my family. And it really sort of taught me that, even though I don't speak Spanish and, people try to shame me and all that, I don't care anymore. I'm represented by my art, and I always have been, and that's why my mosaic is so important to me, because I feel like it's not just a way to make money. I'm expressing me for the first time.
In 2014, I get a casting call brought to my attention for trans people to sing in a choir on a show called Glee, which I had never watched. I had never sung professionally. In fact, when I was young, I wanted to sing, and I was discouraged. I watched the episodes to try and figure out who the people were. Go to this shoot the next morning. There was 197 transgender people there. Biggest crowd of transgender people ever in history for a television show or film of any kind. A couple months later, I get a phone call from a trans woman who was an artistic director, and she wanted to start a real transgender choir. But I said, sure, I'll help you get it going. We'll find the people. First rehearsal was held in October of that year. And then we performed live just a month later for the first time at Trans Day of Remembrance.
Basically, when I met Joe, he was just coming out of art school, studying to be an illustrator. I was an illustrator, but I was an illustrator who was having trouble getting clients, and he was an illustrator having trouble just being an illustrator.
Well, we were lucky that even though he'd had a 20-some year career before we met, he was starting over. Him starting over, me just starting, kept us on a plateau where I didn't feel like I was always looking up at the top. We were both helping each other, supporting each other.
In a way, I've become the artist that I never thought I'd be.
Black, woman, queer, those are realities that have not been given the respect, support, freedom that they should have. Which means then that those realities are not participating in the fullness of the world in ways that they might. That's the identity of an artist, a truth teller, someone who is more committed to what they know to be true than to being liked, someone who is willing to go psychically, internally to many difficult and joyous places in the service of creation. I'm committed to being all of who I am, all the time.
We hope you enjoyed that video, and you're going to get to meet these extraordinary artists in a minute. I do want to say, on a very sad technical note, David and Jolino are having internet issues. We're still hoping, one second, I'm being asked to start my video. I thought I had started my video. There we go. I apologize. We're still hoping that David and Joe will get their internet issues sorted out and be able to join us for some portion of tonight's program, but right now they're on hold. I want to say a couple of words about Outwards. We're the first and only national project to record, preserve, and share the stories of LGBTQIA2S plus elders across the country. We do this work to build community and catalyze social change. And to date, we've recorded about 235 interviews in 35 states in Washington, D.C. Especially with what's going on in state legislatures all over the U.S. right now, it could not be more timely or urgent to make sure the queer community's incredible history is preserved in the voices of those who lived it, witnessed it, and created it. Outwards is a nonprofit organization. We literally could not exist, and we could not pay tonight's panelists and moderator as we do without donations from people like you. If you want to help us to keep providing these free events to the queer community and beyond, please consider making a tax-deductible donation today at theoutwardsarchive.org/donate. And we're also putting that link in the chat window. At this time, please allow me to introduce our moderator for tonight's event, Diana O. Diana O is a truth teller and truth seeker in all forms of art. They've been called the punk goddess and a wizard phoenix. They believe in art with a capital A, and they define their calling as to queer the process, to queer the world, to center and celebrate queer, trans, non-binary humans, and people of color with integrity and joy, and to get allies in on the fun of it all. Diana's work has been featured on the Huffington Post, People Magazine, Upworthy, MTV, NPR, and Vice. And they have been interviewed on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange about why catcalling sucks. Without further ado, please allow me to introduce Diana O.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mason. That was what a beautiful, and wow, I'm obsessed. Okay. We are beginning. Creation is liberation. Thank you, Omi. Thank you, Anne. I think actually before we jump into our fun speed date, after watching the videos with everybody, I find that perhaps people are thinking the same thing. How do you creatively and personally identify now in your current state? And if you can answer in a sentence. Go for it, Anne.
Okay. How do I identify? I identify as a non-binary trans woman. I use any pronoun you want to throw at me. I don't care.
Amazing. Cool. And then creatively.
Creatively, I identify as a talent manager and producer of film and TV and music.
Amazing. Omi.
Okay. I am a queer woman, and I think seeker really gets at all of it for me. I think that's why I make art, or why art comes forward, is because I'm exploring. So a queer woman seeker.
And is that also how you identify artistically and creatively?
I'm beginning to do that more and more. In another way, I could say I'm a writer and a performer. I could
So fun, so yummy. Thank you. So much truth, so much power. I can feel it from the both of you. I want to express that, given that both of you embrace creating from personal experiences, upbringings, and your own cultural nuances, I find that this ultimately facilitates a shared experience that we, as recipients of your work, we can have with you. And I find this to be one of the ultimate byproducts of creation as liberation, which is the title of our fun soiree tonight. And since I personally associate liberation with deeply felt and embodied joy, I want to focus our questions in on a getting to know you in an out of the box, fun and joyful way. So we're going to speed date you, and then we're going to date you one-on-one. Yes, bing, bing, bing. Let's start the game. Okay, so Omi, if you can pick a number between 1 and 13.
10.
Woo! You got me. What are your stripper names? And the way this works is you're gonna name your first pet and the first street you've ever lived on. And Anne, you're answering too, because we're speed dating both of you. This is amazing. Go ahead, Omi, go off.
I'm just start with my stripper names. Is that?
That's it.
Okay. Okay.
Your first pet, first street you ever lived on.
Leroy Badass. Angelina got it. And I'll just leave it with those.
Oh, you're like literally. Oh, let me explain the game of the stripper game, because those were excellent. So it's, you're gonna give me the name of your first pet and then the name of the first street you've ever lived on.
Oh my gosh! So
for example,
thing, you suckered me in.
I know, but I mean, I hope you wrote those down somewhere for us to reference later. I hope they come out in your next piece that you make.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And did you know all of this already?
It would have been worse.
Okay. Let me give an example. This panel is up to a great start.
You just want me to answer those questions, but I'm going to play with those stripper names. Trust me.
Oh, good.
Leroy Badass is
okay, good.
Evolving.
And then what is the name of your first pet?
X-Mall.
X-Mall?
Yeah.
Word. Name of the first street you ever lived on?
6201 Indiana.
Indiana. I now knight you as X-Mall Indiana, and there's your stripper name. There it is. Okay, Anne, name the name of your first pet.
Skippy.
Name of the street you grew up on. You've ever lived on, I mean.
Old Highway. Literally, that's the one. That's the name of it.
Okay, I welcome Exmo, Indiana, and Skippy Old Highway. Knighted. Okay. And pick a number between 1 and 13, and it can't be 10.
7.
Beautiful. Ooh! Ah! What feedback have you received as an artist that has made you feel seen?
Oh God, many times I've performed singing and had audience members come up to me and say, "You're the only one up there that looked like they were having fun." And it made an impact. I loved it.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. How about you, Omi?
Wow. I think, okay. There's a piece that I have done for many years. I don't think I'll be doing it again, called Sister Doctor. It is about my experiences being a Black woman academic at predominantly white institutions. And in that work, I often did it at universities, so there were many people who connected with the situations that I offered up. So I felt seen, and even more, I think they felt seen through me. Just beautiful.
Beautiful. So it was just in them receiving the work, not necessarily anything you heard specifically.
Yes, that I can't think of a specific thing that was said to me. No. So yeah, it was
Powerful.
the experience, the embodied experience of it.
Got it. Amazing. Amazing. Look, it's so tied to creation as liberation. Okay, pop quiz. Okay. Next, choosing a number between 1 and 13. You can't say 7, you can't say 10.
Me? Is that
Oh, yes, yeah, go ahead.
5.
Favorite cereal. What's your favorite cereal?
Oatmeal.
You like to work for your food. Okay. And
Yes, exactly.
My favorite cereal would be cornflakes.
amazing. Dang, you're the first of your kind I think I've ever, yeah.
What
Amazing.
am I?
A cornflake Skippy Old Highway. There it is. Okay, another number.
Another number from me, that would be
Yes.
probably 6.
Oh, okay. Well, what kind of pet would you have if you could have any kind, and how many?
If I could have any kind of pet and how many, I want maybe 6 geese.
Why
I-
geese specifically?
I had a pet goose years ago that was it was a Toulouse, one of those gray geese with the little tufts under their eyes. Anyway, it was the sweetest thing. I would come out the back door. Her name was Lucy, by the way. And she was so tame. I'd pick her up and carry her around with me when I was living on a farm. And when I come out the back door of the house, she would see me and start honking and fly like 3 feet off the ground and land at my feet. It was so cute. I just
Amazing.
loved Lucy.
Amazing. It says so much about who you are as a creative, I find, just to even like know that about you, that you were friends with a goose. That's a big deal. It's a big deal. Okay, and Omi, what kind of pet would you have if you could have any, and how many?
Well, this has conjured up a lot. I think 2 hawks. I would love to be able to, put my hand up and this magnificent hawk comes and sits on my hand and we communicate and they go off. 2 hawks.
Epic. We have 2 very epic artists who have chosen excellent birds as pets. And I just, oh my gosh, thank you. Okay, our last speed dating question for the 2 of you. Omi, you're up. Choose a number.
3.
Woo! Yeah. Ooh, love this. Who is your support system?
Who is my support system?
Yeah. And maybe let's direct this as a creative specifically. Not that, even though our creative and personal selves are very intermeshed. Who is your support system as a creative?
It's a long list. Some of them I know are even out there in the electronic world in this moment with us. So I'll name a couple I know are out there. Priscilla Hale, Niger Whitson, Sharon Bridgeforth, my wife and partner. Oh golly, it's so many. And some are on the earth plane and some are not. Lori Carlos, Robbie McCauley.
You're like going through the
they're truly, that's my, and maybe if I could say it differently, communities associated with a forum called Theatrical Jazz, communities associated with Black queer studies, communities associated with an organization called ALGO in Austin, Texas. And I know I'm overlooked. There's my daughter, there's my stepdaughter, there's a whole lot of people. I feel very loved and supported
Oof.
in what I do. So I'm lucky in that way.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I'm sure that you also hold a mirror to them as well as
I
much as
hope
they
so.
hold a mirror to you. I'm sure it's true. And what about you, Anne, your support system as a creative?
As a creator, that's, well, it'd be Kendra, who's my business partner, and Kitara, who's one of our folks in training here, and then the rest of my staff, like Crystal and Jessica Joyce and Sox Whitmore and so many others. I talk
Yeah.
to them within my company on an almost daily basis and planning all these events that we do.
Mhm.
Wow. And how many staff members do you have?
I haven't counted lately, but I think it's 8.
That's amazing. Who was your first staff member?
Kendra.
And how did
Yeah.
you meet Kendra?
At an acting workshop that was being taught by Jeffrey Tambor.
Mm.
And so,
And then
yeah.
how'd you know to hire her as a staff member? When did it, how'd you know to cross her over?
It's, boy, that was simple because I'm come from a rural area farm person, and I think that way, and she is too, and so we just clicked just like that, because it's like you have a completely different attitude than city folk about work in general and creativity. Everything is so different, and because you're on your own when you're in a rural area, pretty much, and so you learn to create everything on your own and to work dusk to dawn, dawn to dusk. Yeah, dusk to dawn is the night owls.
Right, yeah.
I'm a dawn to dusk person. I wake up as soon as the sun comes up. When the sun goes down, I conk out. So all these nighttime parties in Hollywood, I'm sound asleep.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, cool. So it sounds like it was somebody who had a similar lived experience in terms of environments and yeah, I love that. And Omi, how about you? Why don't you pick somebody from your support system and give us give us a little bit about how you met them?
Well, I'll do my wife, Sharon Bridgeforth. She is an award-winning writer, extraordinary human being. We met in Austin, Texas, and we have different versions about this meeting. One version is that she was flirting with me and I didn't pay any attention to her. I don't remember any of that. But she did indeed have a performance company in Austin called Root Women. And she invited me to do some workshops with Root Women. We did all kinds of theatrical jazz things together. And that was sort of the beginning. We've been making work, making family, making love ever since. Just about it.
Loves. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you both. I'm loving hearing how community, it is that real, right? It is that real for both of you as creatives, that it comes from really it's who sees you in your personal life, it sounds and it seems. And so do you find that do you find that when you work with people who you personally know, that it informs your process as a creative? Do you ever work with people you do not know? I guess how do you choose your collaborators? I think this is a question for the two of you. How do you choose your collaborators? That's the question.
Who goes first?
Would you like to go first, Anne?
I can blather about anything, but if it's somebody I don't know, it's kind of hard. I actually really delve into getting to know them first before we start collaborating, because you never know where you're going to go otherwise, and you don't want to run into conflicts. So it's better to get to know them first. So that's what I've always done.
How do you get to know them?
I just start asking them crazy questions, joke around, see how they react. And just like with the two of you, I never knew you coming into this. So, it's the same way but even greater with collaboration is just simply to ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I worked for like 20 years as an analyst in business. And so when I came to Hollywood, I used the rules I used in that. When you go into a company to analyze and figure out what's wrong and what's right in it to make changes, you ask a lot of questions first. You find out where everybody's head is, and then you can make choices that are informed rather than just randomly saying, oh, let's fire everybody in that department. No, that's not what you do. You know, you just you actually have to find out what works and what works within the framework of what they have, and find out where we can fit changes into that to make it work better. So you always want to work with people.
Right. I love that. The asking of questions. I find it to be, I mean, it really is creating an intentional space of your own curation. You know, it's a powerful thing. Asking questions, I find to be very powerful, actually. And Omi, how about you? How do you choose your collaborators?
I think there's some similarity to what Anne has offered. I tend not to collaborate with people I don't know. And I come to know them often by their work. There's something that they're doing that I find exciting and want to see if there can be some way to come together. And that can be a long process of just hanging out, seeing more work, offering my own before we actually start to work together. And that doesn't prevent the conflicts. In fact, because those often are also personal relationships. I mean, there could be lots of conflicts up in collaborations. Lots of conflicts. And in many ways, that's part of the juice of creating, is that tension is often something very important to explore. I'm learning to collaborate more and more with people, not simply on my idea. So will you come help me do my thing? But, what would we make together? Kind of really starting from scratch with somebody.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm exploring some of that right now, and it's exciting and scary and wonderful.
Amazing. So cool. So fantastic. And how do you, again, a question for the both of you to answer, how do you choose what projects to work on? I suppose, I mean, do you find that you have to compartmentalize, the commercial work from the passion projects, or have you chosen to, how do you kind of navigate what to work on in your life as a creative?
That's a hard one. Really it is, because you do have, I have things I'm passionate about, but I realize that, if I do too many of those, I won't make any money.
Right. Wow.
Unless it's something that's going to spark other people. And there's those too. So I try and sort it out and try and figure out what direction to go in with each thing. I mean, we do, we're trying to put together music shows. We're trying to put together music videos, which is what somebody was just asking what the sign is. And that's my music group, Key Change Ensemble. And so we have music videos we've done. So we had to choose the music, try and teach it to everybody, and then we'll record it and put on a video. And then for film and TV, we're working on trying to develop projects for that. And so that takes a lot of asking a lot of questions around the industry to find out what sells. And so and that's not an easy question, because there's we just saw those things in the industry trades about a ton of shows getting canceled that were in development. And so this is what happens. You can get started on something, you spend years developing something that looks like it's going to get greenlit, and all of a sudden carpet's ripped out from under you and you're left sitting there going, uh-oh. So you try and have a whole bunch of things in development at the same time, so that you're not just totally left with nothing when you get something canceled. So it's I'm still navigating that, because we haven't actually gotten any shows greenlit, and we're working on it. We've been working for 4 years to get something greenlit in the majors, and we still haven't gotten it. So, it's just, and that's why it's such a hard question. It's much easier to do the music stuff, and so we're getting a lot more attention in that area right now. So that's why we're focusing on it pretty heavily.
Amazing. Well, thank you, despite the difficulty, for keeping your channels open, because it clearly people need you, people need your work. And I really do believe that. And Omi, how about you?
Well, I was listening to that and thinking, I don't have work that I think of as professional in that way, as part of an industry. I think the first part of your question was how does work come to you, or
how do you choose what projects to work on? How do you?
And my response to that may explain why I don't really have a commercial presence, and yeah, it's probably even more complicated than I can articulate, but I choose projects that really feel like they choose me. That I start getting I can hear a story developing or evolving, and so then I'm scribbling in the middle of the night, or running around in a store trying to find a piece of paper so I can write things down, because it's like some of the work that I do comes to me in that way. And that work in particular are short stories that I've been developing, that I've been writing. And there's some nice movement on those stories right now, but nothing commercial per se. We'll see, perhaps that will come. In terms of performance, I have so many friends who do work, and they then occasionally invite me to be in it. And I'm just thrilled. It's like, yes. And that there are some of them that have a very high professional profile: Daniel Alexander Jones, Nigel Whitson, Sharon Bridgeforth. And even that, their work is so, all of those artists I've just named, their work is so singular that I think they struggle from time to time to find the right venue, the right producer, and so on. It's hard to pin them in a genre, to figure out exactly who the audience is going to be, though they don't have any trouble attracting audiences. Producers often ask that kind of question. So I have not, unlike Anne, I haven't been a part of that professional world in that way. And sounds like it's daunting, and I too wish you the very best. The very best.
I see you nodding, Anne. What makes it daunting? If you're allowed to, if you can't spill it, don't spill it. But we want to know. Okay.
I said earlier that I worked 20 years as an analyst in business, and doing as an IT analyst, primarily a business analyst. And I got used to working with CEOs and controllers and executive vice presidents and all that. And so I'm totally cool with that scene. And some of these folks that I work with are really huge. And going back to when I was young, I was trained in business by a guy who had all kinds of people that were famous coming to visit him all the time. So I get used to being around that crowd. And so it doesn't bother me. Like when we were at I was at one of the major premieres of Spider-Man Far From Home. Kevin Feige was there, and I walked up and struck up a conversation with him, and talked to him. It doesn't bother me to talk to the CEO of Marvel. It's no biggie. And and I've gotten to know several major CEOs. I just have zero problem with talking to them, and because I know that they're people just like you and I. They have the same challenges, the same stuff going on. Gee, what do I risk? What can I get the best return on investment? What creative flow can I let go with in what direction that's going to make money for the company and going to make the fans excited, and so on. So I literally have no problem with that. And I also have another weird quirk about me. It's not long ago I lost all stage fright. I can go up in front of an audience of any size and it doesn't bother me. You know, I
Yeah.
got to sing the national anthem with a group in Dodger Stadium. Doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
There's 40,000 fans in the stands. You know, it's no biggie. You know, and then another time I sang for Trevor Live right in the front. And when I walked out on stage, and everybody backstage was nervous, they were like shaking. And they were asking me, why weren't you shaking? Well, I don't have any stage fright. And we walked out on stage and I recognized everybody in the audience. It was just chock full of A-list celebrities who were there to support and donate to Trevor, the Trevor Project, to help LGBT youth. And it didn't bother me. I went out and did my job, you know.
Talk about liberation. Talk about your final ascendance into it, that you lost stage fright. And so then what is something that makes you nervous? And I want to hear from both of you. What, as an artist, as a creative, what are the things then that make you nervous? And if it's not stage fright, if it's not the Marvel enterprise, yeah.
What does make me nervous? Well, let's see. Emergencies coming up at the last minute with people not showing up that are supposed to be there because they had something serious happen. You know, that makes me really nervous. Like our other two guests who were supposed to be here, I'm hoping they get their internet solved. But things like that make me nervous. And then if I don't know my job well enough, I can get nervous from that. But I try and set aside time before doing an appearance to study to make sure that I'm ready for it. You know, and because that's where nerves can come into it. But it's, you know, I don't know. Yeah, and it's more a preparation. If I don't have enough time for preparation, I can get really rattled. So
amazing. Thank you for that specificity. And how about you, Omi?
Wow. I think one of the things that makes me nervous is whether or not whatever I have to offer will be useful or of service.
Wow.
You know, it's like, is this going to be meaningful to this group of people? Yeah, that makes me nervous a lot. Lack of preparation, as Ann said, is certainly, that can make me nervous. But I think when I'm kind of standing there as a performer, when I'm standing backstage, it's not only am I going to remember everything and do the things that I want to do, but golly, will they walk away with something useful from what I've offered up?
Wow, that's deep. Thank you. It's powerful just hearing about both of your processes in relation to your creative selves, because that is obviously it's so part of the liberated self. And so then what do both of you define as liberation, knowing that it's personal to each of your experiences, who you are presently? I mean, it could change. It probably has changed throughout your life. But what do you define as liberation for yourself?
The first thing that came to mind is something I already want to amend, but I'll say it, and maybe it will get some clarity on it. Freedom of choice. Freedom of choice. And I want to amend that only because choosing anything and everything is not, to me, a goal, but the ability to decide for oneself what one needs, to have all that is needed to thrive. Those kinds of choices are the ones that lay the foundation to me for liberation.
Beautiful.
For me, creation is a birthing process. And once the birth happens, that's liberation.
Beautiful. Oh my God, the two of thank you for for sharing. And I really, I mean, obviously you signed up to share. That's why you're here on this panel. It's been awesome to chat with you, and I can do this for hours. But we won't. And so I'm going to open up the dance floor for our guests who are watching you speak, to get any questions from them so that they can hear from you. And so I bring to the spaceship Jack McCarthy from the Outwards Archive. So shoot us with some questions, or offer us some questions. I'm trying to avoid that language. Go ahead.
Hi, for those who don't know me, I'm Jack McCarthy. I'm the communications manager for Outwards. I have been your technician behind the scenes. And there's a couple of audience questions that have come in. The first one is, in what ways do you think your LGBTQ+ identity ends up manifesting in your art?
Mm.
For me, that's actually super easy. When we take a song that is intended to be sung a certain way and the audience perceives it that way, and we sing it as out transgender people, it can completely flip the meaning of the song on its head. And when people see us singing it, like a famous one is "This Is Me" from The Greatest Showman. It is far more powerful when you see a bunch of out transgender singers singing that song, because it is, we can be as wildly different looking as you can possibly imagine. And it's mainly because, like, I identify as a woman. I'll go out on the stage dressed in a frilly pink outfit with a bow on my head, and I'll start singing bass. You know, people's heads explode. And it doesn't bother me. It's actually really kind of cool. And so that's how everything can change. There's a whole bunch of songs that we've been working on. Like one of the first songs that we recorded as a group was "This Little Light of Mine." It really changes meaning as an old hymn when you sing it with a bunch of trans people going, "This is me, and this is what I'm singing." And that can happen with virtually every kind of song we sing. You know, and coming up here in about a couple of weeks, we're singing at West Hollywood Pride on on Sunday, and we're singing a bunch of David Bowie songs out of the Ziggy Stardust album. And when you see a bunch of trans people singing it, it's different. It really changes the meaning of it. You know, and so that's how I see it impacting us. And then as far as like for actors, because we rep a lot of actors, and when they come up on stage and they're not identified, and people know that they're trans and they're acting in a role that's not necessarily trans, it can make people go, wait a minute, is that person what's so different about them, you know? And so that's, you know, that's what we try and convey, is that message of you're a human. And it comes across that way, just our mere presence on the stage and on the screen.
Wow. Wow. For me, I think it comes through my queer identity, comes through more in content than in self-performance or self-presentation. Yeah, maybe others could respond to that more than I can about myself. But I think in the content, in the series of short stories that I've been writing recently about a little Black girl growing up in the suburbs of Chicago, who is learning all kinds of protocols about race and class and nationality and gender and sexuality. I think writing those stories and having this 9-year-old Black protagonist participating in what we might call queer awakenings, I think will say a lot to a lot of people thinking of children at that age with a burgeoning awareness of their sexuality. All of that may be a wonderful way in which my own queer self manifests in the work. When I'm performing, I've done a lot of performance in Sharon Bridgeforth's work, and many of her characters are queer in many of the ways you want to turn queer around and what it might mean. And when I'm cast in that, I'm then surrounded by a world where queer is the norm. So I should say too, because I don't always know how I'm read, none of us really do, right? But I don't know how I'm read, and I think it is important for people to know that I identify as queer. I have begun using that description that was asked of me of Black, queer, woman, seeker, so that whether I'm at a university making a presentation about something that doesn't appear to be about queerness, it is then declared in the room because I bring it in there with me.
Powerful. Both of you go off, both of you. Yes. Jack, do we have another?
We do. Has being queer prevented you or your work from being seen to an audience? That comes from fellow Outwards interviewee, Dale Guy Madison. Welcome, Dale.
Can you say it one more time, Jack?
Has being queer prevented you or your work from being seen by an audience?
I can, yeah, well, this is where I'm a bit on the controversial side. I don't personally feel that we want to push transgender stories out there in media and in movies and TV shows, because then that does happen. Because you put a transgender storyline, especially a major one, in, and you suddenly start seeing articles popping up where such and such country just banned this show or this episode, or they want a scene cut out of a movie to screen it there. And I'm kind of like, yeah, I don't want to do that. I'd rather have the movie go everywhere, and have people dig and go, oh, who's that actor I just saw in that movie? And then they go, oh my gosh, that's a trans person. Wow. And for some of these countries, I mean, you look at the United States, there's even a lot of diversity here where there's whole chunks of it that will not see us. They don't want to see us. They don't want to see or hear anything we have to say or do. Some backwoods areas, one of those red states, they're not gonna want to see us. And then there's whole countries like that ban LGBT content. And so my opinion is, no, let's have people on these programs who don't play roles even that are trans or LGBT at all, and let them see that we're human, that we have good acting skills, that we have good singing skills. That's like, when we sing an old song like This Little Light of Mine, like I talked about earlier, who's going to ban that from it's been around for over 100 years if we just sing it as written, who's going to ban it? I mean, that's kind of like weird. And so I'd rather get us in front of those audiences where they go, are they really religious? Do they really care about God? And how many trans people actually are religious and they have to hide it because there's plenty of them that aren't, and they get in trouble. And so I kind of want to see that message get out there that we're humans. There was a huge amount of diversity even within the trans community. And so I want to see that shown and not blocked. So I actually work hard to try and make sure our content isn't blocked.
Wow. I don't know that I have lost any work because I'm queer, and maybe I wouldn't know, right? I'll tell you, from a different vantage point, I taught at university in Texas for a number of years. And when I first arrived there in 1990, there was the habit that administrators, at that time, the vast majority of them were white and male. I don't know about their sexuality or how they identify, but they would, if you appeared to be female, they would shake your hand and then lean in And it would sometimes be an actual kiss on the cheek, or sometimes just a cheek to cheek. And I know right now in 2022, that's the illegality of that, and the psychic horror of that is really clear. It wasn't so in 1990. When I began to move in the world actively as a queer person, and this moved through the various ranks at the university, in part because one of my jobs was to hire people. I was training graduate students and undergraduates and so on. I wanted everybody to be real clear about who I am, so that there would be nothing that seemed to be trying to go under the radar or some weirdness. After I began to move in the world publicly as a queer person, all that little kissy stuff stopped. They said, oh, no. It was fascinating
Wow.
how gender and sexuality just all together. And whatever the conversations were, I would get the handshake, but there was no lean anymore. I was grateful there was no lean anymore. But it was and it was also a whole lot of information about the privileges that some assumed on other people's bodies. Woo! It was deep. It was deep.
Yes. Woo! Well,
so let me say this too then.
Yeah.
I don't know how many promotions I didn't get, how many raises. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
Right. Because you have been in the pursuit of your truth, it's like
that's what I've been trying to do.
right. I feel that. I feel that, and I see you. The both of you, thank you so much. We're at time. I have loved this opportunity to talk to both of you. I know that we're missing two panelists, and also it's been really nice to drop in with the two of you like this. These are rare moments I find in life, and I'm just thank you for both of you for what you do. I guess, do you want to close out, Jack, with just hearing about where we can find them?
Yes. This anonymous attendee, it was me, has asked, do the panelists and moderators have any projects they'd like to shamelessly plug? And I'm also happy to copy paste URLs into the chat for ease of access for our attendees.
I wish I did. So, Anne, you take it away. I don't have any projects that are out and available. So
I run a company called Transgender Talent, and the website's transgendertalent.com. It's really easy. That's where that is. Then for our music group, we have keychangeensemble.org as a website for that. And we are performing at West Hollywood Pride on Sunday, June 5th from 2 to 3 p.m. in a production called The Church of Trans Love. And so come watch us, and you can see me in person. Just up, and I'm just singing in the background. I'm not going to be the center of the attention on that. I want all these young folk to get all the attention, and these, I'm a professional singer, but there's people that are going to be there that are even way better than I ever could dream of being. So that's something upcoming where you can come and see us. And if you're an actor and you're looking for representation and you're trans or non-binary, we do offer that. And so there's a contact email address you can write to that's on our webpage. So, and also for musicians, if you're a musician of any kind, that department's run by Jessica Joyce, who many of you have probably seen frequently on the James Corden show. She's in all the intros of the Carpool Karaoke segment. She's the one playing the tuba in that marching band that comes over the hill. And by the way, our This Little Light of Mine music video and the Queers in Heaven one were both shot at the same movie ranch that is bordering up against the road where they shot the James Corden video. So anyway, that's what we're up to, and we're going to be quite busy this summer with a lot going on.
Can I offer one thing very quickly? Because as Anne was talking, I realized I could at least say one thing. If people wanted to know about the work that Sharon and I do together, working to encourage artists to be their best selves, to pull out the thing that's in there that they know they want to get out, we do some work, and our website is Our Next Now. And you can find out much more about all of us on that.
Ah, these website names. Can we? Yes. I see a finger.
I forgot one other little thing that is if you're an industry professional like a writer, director, producer, etc., and you're looking for somebody to help you put together something and you're afraid of what the content is, we have a consulting division for our company. So we consult with movies and TV shows about the content, about the casting, any of that stuff. That's what we're here for as well.
That's great.
Between Anne and Omi, we are taken care of. Mwah. Beautiful.
What about Diana O?
Oh, hi. Oh my God. I'm off social media. Thank you. You're welcome. My dogs are there. They have a small community of support, but they are amazing. They're at Professional Laugh Dog, but I'm very rarely on there. So best of luck finding them and myself. There's a website. There's Google my name, go look at pictures of me in my underwear. Enjoy. I'm here right now doing a big music commission in Baltimore, having the best time. Love it so much. Queer the world. Love. Mwah.
Queer the world.
Fantastic, Diana.
What?
You were fantastic.
Oh,
So easy to talk to.
Likewise, the two of you.
I'm going to do a little thing that we do here at Outwards where instead of just like abruptly ending the webinar and then it's awkward, we're going to blow pixie dust. And like, as everyone is blowing the pixie dust, the webinar will come to a close. So if everyone can just like gather up their pixie dust and rub it together. Attendees, you're welcome to do this too. We can't see you, but we can feel you. And on the count of 3, we will blow out the pixie dust. Okay, 1, 2, 3.